to release the kids to go next door. And all of this content today does come with an adult warning, so I am saying it up front as a disclaimer. Some of the images you will be seeing today will be disturbing, so brace yourself. But in order for you to know the truth, some of these images are necessary. So again, as a disclaimer, some of the images are strong. So kids, I'll let you go now with listen to go next door. All the kids out there. You're gonna be back. Myself, I'm speaking on behalf of my friends. Cliff is agreed to come along today and give a talk on a particular subject, and also BJ, thank you once again guys, for at such short notice being able to stand and be available. The content that you'll be presented with today is very strong, but I will not be presenting to you today information I have not thoroughly checked. As far as a minister for this congregation, I take very seriously what I teach my congregation. So I'm not about to share something with you that I have not researched myself, and research from the best researchers out there. So much of this information is coming from the top brass of the military on both sides of the pond, in fact across the world. So the stuff you're hearing today is pretty much cutting edge. And even that, I know, is not the full picture. There is more. But at least after today, you'll be much more informed about these subject matters than maybe you were before. So, without further ado, quickly on the ask you, because of the content that we're doing today, we can't even scrape the surface of everything. So already I've scheduled part 2 of today, and that will be the 22nd of April for X-Files part 2. So I encourage you to come back to that date where you'll hear more. But just to kind of touch on the subject matters that we're looking at over these conferences: human mutilation and missing persons, animal mutilation, UFOs, what are they? Alien graves, reptilians, insectoids, giants, DNA, super soldier program, Area 51, Nightmare Alley, Delta Air Base, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. The good thing is make some notes as you go along, because I'm sure you're going to hear things today and be like, oh, I know some of that, but I'd like to hear more about it, so please make notes. Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, what goes on there? Georgia Guidestones, that's what I'm presenting today, as well as animal and human mutilation today. Global depopulation program, eugenics, fake alien invasion, Project Bluebeam, water fluoridization, aspartame sucralose, GMO foods, CERN, Stargates, ancient sites, Gilbekli Tepe, Adam's calendar, that should have been that, Machu Picchu, Teotihuacan, Peru, Sesic, I can't pronounce some of these Peruvian words. You can see it on the screen anyway. Freemasons, Denver Airport, Illuminati, Jesuits control, Catholic Church, actually Jesuit controlled Catholic Church is what I should have said. September 11, 2001, what was that whole 9/11 business all about, really? Coral Castle, global contamination of food and blood. Organ harvesting, that's a big one. Secret space programs and space fleets. CIA released files on remote viewers. Recently, one of the biggest disclosures that the CIA has ever made was done just a few weeks ago, where they released a lot of their top secret files into the public domain, and some very shocking stuff was in that. Chemtrails, HARP, FEMA concentration camps, DUMB, that stands for Deep Underground Military Bases. The untold story behind the Falkland Wars is not quite what we were told. Transhumanism and gene splicing. Star Children, you've heard of the Black-Eyed Children? Earth Sounds, Agenda 21, the truth behind the JFK assassination. vaccinations, which is what our brother Vijay will be talking about today, Planned Parenthood, what's really going on in Planned Parenthood, and earthquakes. And there is yet more to be added to that list. So, as I said before, I'll be looking at the Georgia Guidestones, and animal mutilation and human mutilation as well. Cliff will be presenting transgenics. I'm hoping that you're familiar with these terms, advises what these terms will refer to. Georgia Guidestones. I'm going to try and be as quick as possible to give decent enough time to my colleagues, but at the same time giving you all the information you need. The Georgia Guidestones are in Elbert County, Georgia, USA. And I could literally spend the whole day just talking about the Georgia Guidestones. But hopefully after today we'll have most of the information. They were erected on the 22nd of March, 1980. And that date was chosen for occult reasons. The Georgia Guidestones are very ominous. There's an eerie feeling when you get there. And then I've been there in my research. I feel like I've been there. I've been studying these things so much. But there's an eerie atmosphere because they used occult divining to pick out the very spot where they would erect these stones. But everything about these stones is actually meant to be an affront to Father. There are numerous attempts have been made to try and erode or destroy the stones, and every single one of them, they keep on cleaning the stones and restoring or repairing them because it's meant to be an eternal monument standing there for all time. When you look at the stones, you feel this presence that you're standing in front of something that is speaking to you. And that's what people say when they go there, they feel as though the stones are actually speaking. And I say these words deliberately for a reason. When you look at the stones, you'll realize that there's writing in different languages because it's meant to be speaking to a people that apparently live in the future. But the truth is the monument speaks to the people living at the present time and also in the future. When you look at the stone, you'll see holes and slits, and I'll explain what some of these holes and slits are in a minute. So on these slabs are written 12 different languages. So we have Chinese, Russian on one slab, English and Spanish on another, Swahili and Hindu, Hebrew and Arabic. But then on the top slab, the capstone, we also have classical Greek, Egyptian, and I think we have Babylonian and Sanskrit. So 12 different languages. This message is conveyed to those 12 different people groups. Apparently it was all paid for, and financing behind it was a man called R.C. Christian, who was responsible for the financing and the building of these slabs. He made sure he built this on the highest point in the Georgia County. Again, it's a high place, if you're familiar with that from your Bibles. Let's look at some of the history. The Georgia Guidestones, the granite monument erected in 1980 in Elbert County, Georgia, in the United States. A set of 10 guidelines is inscribed on the structure in 8 modern languages, but it's 12 altogether, and a shorter message is inscribed on the top of the structure in 4 ancient language scripts: Babylonian, Classical Greek, Sanskrit, and Egyptian hieroglyphs. In June 1979, a man using the self-confessed pseudonym Robert C. Christian approached the Elberton Granite Finishing Company on behalf of a small group of loyal Americans and commissioned the structure. Christian explained what the stones would function as: a compass, calendar, and clock, and should be capable of withstanding catastrophic events. So in other words, it's meant to sustain or withstand World War. Joe Fendley of Elberton Granite assumed that Christian was a nut and attempted to discourage him by giving him a quote several times higher than any project the company had taken, explaining that the Guidestones would require additional tools and consultants. Christian accepted the quote. So in obvious fact, this R.C. Christian has unlimited financial resource. When arranging payment, Christian explained that he represented a group which had been planning the Guidestones for 20 years and which intended to remain anonymous. The engraver, the stone workers that worked on the tablets had something very interesting to say when they were actually engraving it. As the stonemasons cut the engraving into the granite, he claimed he constantly heard voices emanating in the air around him as he scribed the words he was given into the large granite slabs. And this is documented in much material. Imagine cutting into granite and hearing voices all around you. You know this is not something normal. R.C. Christian. He told the bankers when he was going to arrange financing for this that that's not really his name, it was a pseudonym. It's a pseudonym. So R.C. Christian resembles Rose Cross Christian, or Christian Rosicrucian, who is the founder of the Rosicrucian order. I'm hoping that many of you are familiar with some of the occult groups that exist, and the Rosicrucian order are one of the ancient ones. They also use the acronym of AMORC, which means Ancient Mystical Order Rosicrucians. So please do your own research in your own time as to the AMORCs, the Ancient Order of Rosicrucians. AMORC was founded in the 13th century, practicing the occult of Kabbalah and alchemy and other mystery knowledge that is either hidden from us or has been lost to us. This is what they go in search of. Aleister Crowley is a famous Rosicrucian member, and many, many others. So this pseudonym, this gentleman comes along using the name R.C. Christian, which is telling us he's obviously a part or a member of the Rosicrucian order. So these are the people behind it. Symbols of the AMORC that you may be familiar with. The red rose, or this symbol, the upside down pyramid, with again the cross in it, and the rose in the center. This is actually a royal symbol, the royal house of Tudor rose. This, yes, it is Hebrew characters that you're seeing on this red cross, but you're more familiar with this one, which is the Red Cross, that we believe to be an organization that is responsible for the helping of those who are in need. But what we don't know is that Freemasons heavily invest in this area. Freemasons actually do control most of these organizations that we think are doing humanitarian aid. It serves another nefarious agenda. Let me put it to you like this, and I'm hoping I'm not stepping on anyone's territory today. If you're going to give out inoculations to the whole world, who better to give it out through? Did you not know that they gave the AIDS virus to many people in the African continent through the Red Cross? And I'm learning some of this stuff for the first time as I'm coming into this, because for years I used to sow into the Red Cross and sow into another humanitarian ministry called Joint Aid Management. So I'm going to come on to that in a bit. So, the structure is aligned to the North Star, so at any time of day, you can go up to it and look through it and you can see the North Star. Also, you can go up to it and look through another slot, this slot here, and you can see the sun rising in the summer and winter equinox. In other words, if there were a catastrophic incident that happened to the entire world, you could go to this structure and you can find out what day of the year it is and know what season, and you would know what day you're on and the hour of the day. So you're meant to be able to, as I said, it's a calendar and a compass as well. This is that hole I mentioned. The North Star is always visible through the hole drilled in the center pillar. So you can look through that hole and see the North Star at night. I believe this also serves because they believe that this North Star represents Satan. So Satan must be always visible, or Lucifer must be always visible at night. And then you have the center column in the middle, where if you look through that slit, you can see the rising sun on the equinoxes. And it's a very up-close slot. And notice how it's very wide on one angle, and at the other end very narrow. There's a reason for that, which I'll come to in a moment. And notice these grooves. I don't quite know, I don't know most of the things that are going on in this thing. You'd have to understand, or initiate of the occult to really know every aspect of what's going on within the Georgia Guidestones. So as I said before, you have these 12 languages, but they omit French, Japanese, and German, which does represent a very large proportion of the world. They omit these 3 languages, maybe because they feel that those languages will no longer exist at some point. Again, this is their plan. So at the very top of the structure, I mentioned this capstone, and there's a hole in the capstone which the sunlight will shine through, and through that they're able to ascertain time of day. Let's look at these 10 words. Again, remember the 10 Commandments was written by the hand of God on stone. So this is their version, Antichrist version. They call this monument many names. Satan's 10 Commandments, the Antichrist 10 Commandments. You'll hear many different names for it. But let's take a look at these 10 words, or these Georgia Guidestones 10 Commandments. So the first one is to maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. How many people on the planet right now? 7 billion. So they're talking about getting rid of 6.5 billion people. Just getting rid of 6.5 billion people. And they want to keep the world global population under 500 million. Number 2, guide reproduction wisely, improving fitness and diversity. How would you do that? Guiding reproduction wisely, improving fitness and diversity. So straight away you're talking about things like birth control, you're talking about age control. I remember it was when we watch sci-fi films, that's their way of actually telling you what they want to do. I'm going to show my age. There was a sci-fi film called Logan's Run. Remember that one? What would happen when you hit the age of 30? You would die. At the age of 30, your whole metabolism would just pack up and shut down. And that was how they kept the population count. That no one ever hit over 30. And this is the things, these are the kind of things that they want to do. They want us all to, at a certain point, expire. Just give up the ghost. And this is what they believe they can achieve through science. So they want to guide reproduction. Again, there are things that, I don't know if you know much about eugenics. They want to choose the fittest and the best. But how do you go about doing that? What are your parameters for choosing who's worthy, who's fit? What people group deserve to live? And there's more you can go into. Diversity. Is there a class system involved in all of this? Because already in Bombay, India, they've already begun to build these small, very restricted housing units where they will move all the peoples into the inner city and you'll be controlled. You will not be able to come out of that certain postcode. There was another film that they came out with in Hollywood where, again, you had So Long to Live. Justin Timberlake was the star of the film, I think what it's called. You had So Long to Live, but you could not move beyond a certain postcode unless you had some serious money, I mean major money. That's how they controlled the populations, the people groups. These are the kind of things that they're talking about doing to us. Keeping you in the inner cities within a certain code, and you cannot get out of that code unless you have a certain amount of money to be able to move back and forth. Number 3, unite humanity under a living new language. Again, when you're reading this, take your mind back to the Tower of Babel. Unite humanity under a single or new living language. The Bible says that the whole earth spoke one language. And then they rebelled, and Father set down the angels, and they now caused them all to speak different languages. But what the Antichrist system will seek to do is reverse that, is to undo that and go back to a single language. Not going to Father to do this, but they will rebel and do this. So they're looking to reverse what happened at Babel. So to unite humanity with a new and living new language, to rule passion, faith, tradition, and all things with tempered reason. So they will control what you believe. They want to control religion, control organizations, control fellowships like this. So now it will be a universal church, one that they approve of. Protect people and nations with fair laws and just cause. Again, all these words, some of these words may sound very nice, but it's not. It's not. It's all about control. They're looking to control you, not protect you. People and nations with fair laws and just cause. So what's fair? Because I would say that for me, as far as I believe, I go according to the Bible. I don't believe in a man with a man and a woman with a woman. But the law now says that that's acceptable. So where do we draw the line? The Bible is my code of conduct. The Bible tells me how I should live my life. But what they will now say is, no, that's antiquated, that's our old and done with. We now live under a new age. 6, let all nations rule internally, resolving external disputes in a world court. Global government, world court. Avoid petty laws and useless officials. Balance personal rights and social duties. Prize truth, beauty, love, seeking harmony with the infinite. What infinite? Who's infinite? Who's that? Be not a cancer on the earth. Leave room for nature. Leave room for nature. Are the final words on this. So in summary, global government, global control, control of all institutions of the religious, control of populations, controlling diversity, and fitness, eugenics. Eugenics is the whole research into these people group are weaker. This people group actually diminish more than they should do. They should not be on the earth. We need to eradicate those people groups. So these are the Georgia Guidestones. They're so-called 10 Commandments for the New World. And there are dates set on this structure as to when they believe this generation they're speaking to. Japan, Holland, and Haiti is also documented as not being on the, not mentioned on this stone, on this plate. So what's going to happen to Japan, Holland, and Haiti? What nefarious plan do they have for these 3 countries? Do we see anything going on already in Haiti that looks as though something nefarious is going on to control the population? Do we see anything? Have you heard anything in the news over the past recent years? Japan, has anything happened in Japan that could possibly reduce the population? Do you know of anything that might have popped up in the news? A nuclear reactor going off also. Contamination of water supply. In Japan, they've been having yellow rain for how long? Yellow rain? Who's ever seen yellow rain? They wake up and see yellow dust all over the cars and streets. What's that? Goodness knows what already now is coming out of the earth and what birth defects are going on now you're not hearing about. And in years to come, what are the long-term implications? When Fukushima happened, this was the worst disaster known to the history of man. And it was still going on for how many months? Still leaking dangerously high levels of radiation and contaminants into the water supply, which then go both into the wind stream, global wind stream currents, and also into the world, the ocean currents as well. And it's carried around the world several times over. The man, R.C. Christian, is believed to be no other than Ted Turner. And there's actually a number of people who said they've actually proved this, that the man that walked in was Ted Turner. Again, you can do your research as to who Ted Turner is. He's been on the Oprah Winfrey Show a number of times, the wealthy billionaire, and he's been very, very verbal about his support for depopulation programs, for eradication of certain people groups. He's very, very verbal about it, very public. So do your research on Ted Turner on the Oprah Winfrey Show, and he's not shy to share his feelings. But let's take a look at this stone that's actually on the ground, not part of the physical upright stone, but on the ground there is this floor stone. And there's something interesting on there. It says the top, it describes that top plate I talked about, which has 4 different Babylonian, classical Greek languages on it, and it says this: let these stones be to an age of reason. So let these stones be to an age of reason. What does that mean? He's taking it from a book called The Age of Reason by Thomas Paine. Thomas Paine wrote these words. Its intent was to destroy the Judeo-Christian beliefs upon which the Republic of the USA was founded. The Age of Reason being an investigation of true and fabulous theology is a deistic treatise written by 18th century British radical and American revolutionary Thomas Paine. The work critiques institutionalized religion and challenges the inerrancy of the Bible. Its tenets advocate reason in place of revelation, a viewpoint that is obviously shared by the authors of the Guidestones. It is a known fact that Thomas Paine was a leading member of the Rosicrucian fraternity in America. So we know the background of this is definitely not good. Computer analyst Van Smith said the monument's dimensions predicted the height of the Burj Khalifa, which opened in Dubai over 30 years after the Georgia Guidestones were designed. Smith said the builders of the Guidestones were likely aware of the Burj Khalifa project, which he compared to the biblical Tower of Babel. So there's the link. Even within the measurements and dimensions, architects can see that there is a reference to this structure, which is the world's tallest man-made structure in Dubai, the Burj Khalifa Tower. Obviously, its inspiration is to build a tower high into the heavens. But those of you who have been coming to Harvard will know that the word Babel in Hebrew means confusion, but it's actually not a Hebrew word, it's actually an Akkadian word. And the word Babel in Akkadian means gateway to the gods. So the purpose of the Tower of Babel was to really create what we would call a stargate, a gate that would be able to give one access to the realm of the eternal. Okay? And both ways, there and back. Just open up a doorway so that entities can come into our world and we can pass through. So gateway to the gods is what the word Babel actually means. That's taken from Oxford dictionaries. So this structure, I mean, I've been to Eiffel Tower, many of you I'm sure probably have had a chance to go to Paris. This is the Great Pyramid in Giza, the Eiffel Tower, and here is the Burj Khalifa. At one time, the Chicago Sears Tower was the world's tallest building. That's the World Trade Center that once used to stand. But now this Burj Khalifa stands as a monument in the face of God. Now there are some similarities between Georgia Guidestones and this plate, this stone that exists at Denver Airport. And what's interesting is underneath the Georgia Guidestones there was a time capsule. I think I missed off the slide for it because there's a date on when the time capsule is supposed to be opened. And there's some additional information. They've left room to add more to the Georgia Guidestones. As they further their plans, they will be continually adding more. So on this plate at Denver Airport, it says the time capsule beneath this stone contains messages and memorabilia to the people of Colorado in the year 2094. Interesting. And here those of you who know the T-square compass, symbol of Freemasonry, and it says the New World Airport Commission contributors. Now, why would the Queen purchase property by the Denver Airport? She has a lot of property because the Denver Airport is what you see on the surface, but beneath the airport is a humongous city. And for some reason, those who have money and wealth have purchased a lot of property around this building. And as you go to the Denver Airport, there's nothing about this airport in this presentation, there'd be too much in there. You see nothing but New World Order symbolism everywhere in this airport. Now, one of the interesting things I said about this building, this structure, there's been research done to take a look at this little slit here that I talked about, where you can see the sun through, where apparently it is actually, the whole structure is meant to be a trumpet. That you actually can speak into this thing or blow into this thing, and it will actually transmit sound in the direction of the sun. So it's almost as though as you blow the shofar, it's a call. You can actually call through this structure to whatever dark entities, can you imagine, they want to call forth. So there's research being done on this structure constantly, but this is something that blows my mind, in that this structure is able to actually generate sound. But this is nothing new. If you've studied anything about ancient Egypt, much of Memphis and Luxor had temples that you could actually stand in front of certain structures and blow into them, or even actually stand in front of another structure and hear your own heartbeat. So they were very advanced in ancient Egypt. So this building, or this structure, again, Rosicrucians study this kind of thing, ancient knowledge. So again, more to take a look at. I said before, it's a living monument, but it's a living monument of defiance against God's rule, against His authority, against His knowledge, against His commandments even. So they think they want to preserve nature, because they mentioned about everything being in balance with nature. So in other words, they're saying that man is subservient to the creation around him, when all of creation was giving glory to Father, and man was given dominion over everything to protect and to guard, and to take up dominion upon the earth. Now they want to control the number of mankind on the earth. And I wonder, it just makes me dread and shiver when I think, who do they think will be controlling all of this then? 500 million? Well, who's going to be in that number? So, as I said before, they keep adding more and more to the structure. Just a few years ago, they added some more. This cube was placed on one of the slabs that had the English and Spanish translation. This cube was erected into the corner. They actually cut the slot out, but left it vacant, with just a blanking plate in there. But they've taken the blanking plate out and put this cube in its place. And this cube has the numbers 20 and 14. Now, I have no idea what happened in the year 2014. A lot of things happened in 2014, but what is it they expected to happen in 2014? But this cube was placed in there. And it's not just a date for a year, they're occult numbers that have great significance. In actual fact, it's 666 at the root of it. So it's 6 by 6, 6 inches, I think it is, by 6, and you can go through this chart and work out a whole myriad of numbers. This was something that I started to look at this and I thought, this is way beyond my level of mathematics. But it's a play on numerology, it's a play on 6 inches by 6 inches by 6 inches. We know the number of the beast, 666, yada, yada, yada. It goes on and on and on. They can work out the distance from the earth to the sun, from the earth to the moon. It's all in this cube. So, and there's this jam again. They pick up on this JAM. I said I was supporting a humanitarian mission called Joint Aid Management. But I prayed about it, and Father said some years ago to just stop, because I realized the Red Cross had already been infiltrated a long time ago. And when I found out about JAM and their connection with the Red Cross, I backed away. I'm so glad I did. You will see these pyramid structures everywhere. And on those stones, those very same stones in the Georgia Guidestones, you have these words JAM and M and M on them. And it's clear in all my research that I put together, it's clear that this JAM has some connection with the Mahdi, or the Muslim uprising that will rise up at some point and support Antichrist. Ja'ash al-Mahdi, in the end times figure who is said to assist Jesus in the destroying of the Antichrist. This is what they teach, obviously, not what we teach. And the MM is supposed to equate to 33. Now, I know you can't see this very well, but there were, at the Twin Towers, before they were destroyed, 2 tridents that stood in the lobby with 3 prongs representing 33. Those 2 tridents have been recovered and put in the new structure. They're still there to this day. So here we have that cutout I mentioned before. That cutout was as such, but now it's been filled with this cube. Where do we see the cube again in connection with the Twin Towers site? Well, the new Twin Towers Memorial is actually a double cube. A double black cube is what you now see on the site in New York. Hollywood is pushing the concept of the cube in all of its movies. Transformers, the all-spark cube. The all-spark was said to be the originating device that created all the Transformers. It gave life to all organic matter in the universe. In the Avengers, Iron Man, the Tesseract, again, this cube that has unlimited power. In the recent Superman movie, at the end, there is a trailer where you see 3 cubes in the hand of Ragnarok. And these 3 cubes will now go on to feature in all the up-and-coming movies. So the occult world knows much about these cubes and is pushing it through its media. Those of you who are familiar with Freemasons, they do all of their activities on a cubed floor, black and white, representing light and darkness, good and evil. They do all of their rituals on a cubed floor. All over New York, London, Paris, Madrid, you will see these cubes being erected more and more. This is an Apple store in New York, and I think there's one in London. You'll actually see it being a glass building as opposed to a black cube. They're everywhere. Again, I said before, at the new location in New York where the Twin Towers stood, you have the double black cube. Again, black trees. When it comes to the word, it says, yes, it shall be between your eyes, but now even that they've corrupted and made a black cube on the forehead and put the shin on there. And then we have the Kaaba, which has always been there, a black cube. So this is something very deep and embedded in the occult for hundreds, if not thousands of years. So this is nothing new for them, but for us, it's right there in plain sight, but we don't even see it, we don't understand it. And on the side of this Kaaba, again, it's a pagan fertility goddess system. It always was. I don't mind saying this. On the side of this Kaaba, forgive me for saying this, is a female genitalia. And when they do the Hajj, they walk around it and they all get to their point where they kiss the female genitalia on the side. So you can type in Kaaba and just type in what I've just said, and you'll see images of this for yourself, to know I'm not telling you nonsense here. So all of this religion is built upon pagan fertility goddess worship. So this is what Salman Rushdie exposed. Salman Rushdii's satanic verses was expressing and explaining that in the Quran is actually information that shows that Allah was birthed from pagan deities. And that's why they put a fatah on his head to kill him. But he was just saying, this is what's in the Quran. It's there. So when we look at this structure, or the Georgia Guidestones, it really is a kind of rebuilt Tower of Babel. It's not just meant to be stone standing erect. It's actually meant to be a living device that can be used to open up spiritual doorways. Even when the stonecutter was cutting the stones, he was hearing voices around him as he's engraving the stones. So there's something deeply spiritual about this object that is meant to be used, not just looked at, it's meant to be used by those who know how to use it. So already there have been strange groups going to the site at night and having rituals. There is a camera that records, but it's interesting how we don't have any footage of this, but groups have been seen at night to be going there and carrying out rituals. As I said before, it's not just a monument that stands there doing nothing. They are using it to bring forth demonic principalities and powers into this world. They're calling forth demons. But that's not the only site. Around the world already, in Kazakhstan, there are many other sites now being discovered and then quickly taken off Google Maps. This appeared in Kazakhstan. This is actually a very high up sky view of an area of land where they've somehow designed a pentagram. Goodness knows what they're doing to us on this earth. They're having rituals. They're literally trying to take the earth. And by designing all of these strange, we know what the pentagram is, all of these images and symbols, they're really summoning in darkness into this world. So I'm sharing these things with you, not that you should be afraid, because greater is he that's in me than he that's in the world. But these are the things that are going on right now in our world. 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 3 to 5. For although we do live in the world, we do not wage war in the worldly way, because the weapons we use to wage war are not worldly. On the contrary, they have God's power for demolishing strongholds. We demolish arguments and every arrogance that raised itself up against the knowledge of God, such as the Georgia Guidestones and other things. We take every thought captive and make it obey the Messiah. This is the complete Jewish Bible version. So again, do not fear, because we have yet to see the power of God move. When Father moves, all of this will just be washed away. Hallelujah to that. Hallelujah to that. Thank you for your time. My second presentation this afternoon is Catholic mutilation.
Yeah, many thanks for staying with us. The recording time on this particular session has been reduced just under 60 minutes. So unfortunately, the length of the whole session wasn't covered. But if you want to know more about the other areas that were shared by other speakers, we have one session on the Georgia Guidestones, number 2, Transgenics, remember Dolly, the sheep, Number 3, vaccinations. Did you know that they're still putting mercury into vaccinations? I can't believe that, but they are. Number 4, animal and human mutation. What's that all about? Well, I know my friend has covered a little bit on that one, but there's a lot more else to share. We do thank you for being with us, and again, I'm sorry that we couldn't cover the whole session. But if you go into the site, which is ahavarfellowship.com, you'll see information there and contact details. Or if you want to come into the site that we run, which is kctvmedia.com, we cover a lot of other stuff. Basically, the news behind the news. Anyway, God bless you. Speak to you soon.
And transplant it to you, connecting all the nerves, everything. We're talking nerves, bones. How do you do that? That's how advanced they are with human tissue, but they've done the same thing with inorganic matter. So soldiers can now have limbs that they've been blown off in combat or whatever, not just blades. They've got toes and legs. Remember the $6 million man?